fans, and welcome back to Majors Quarantine Corner, presented by Fanshawe College, the official educational partner of the London Majors. I'm Noah Smith. With me again, Dylan Baker, as we welcome you back for another week here, and we continue with the great interview guests. This week, Dylan, Chris McQueen, the former middle infielder for the London Majors.
Yeah, Chris McQueen joins the show. He spent some time with the Majors from 2015 to 2018, some very successful seasons with the organization. We're excited to get a chance to chat with him.
Anybody that's watched Chris play over the years for the Majors and everywhere else that he's played knows that he's a speedy guy, Dylan. We'll touch on that with a few of the questions as well as the fan questions. But Chris, one of the speedier guys to play for the Majors.
Definitely. We've got a few questions in here asking about his speed and kind of his game. He's your prototypical middle infielder. Of course, he played second base in his time with the Majors. He hits at the top of the order. He's got speed, and he plays well defensively. We're excited to get a chance to talk to him.
One of those questions that we'll get to when we get to our fan questions segment is a new one that we like to call Keith's Question of the Week. Former London Major Keith Candell, he likes to get his questions in and, kind of have a little bit of a light question for the guys. And he'll be actually joining us here via video to ask his question to Chris McQueen.
Yes, he will. We're very excited for it. And every week when we ask you, the fans, for your submissions or questions for our guests, Keith Candell always has a fun one for us. So we're excited that he'll be joining us via video to ask his question to Chris.
And, of course, another thank you to the frontline workers and everyone out there who's helping us get through some good news in the area, as it looks like things are starting to open up a little bit more. Dylan, I don't know if you noticed, I got myself a little bit of a haircut here for this show.
Yeah, I didn't notice, no, but now that you pointed out, it looks good. Of course, we remind you to keep physically distancing when it's possible, but hair salons are now open, Noah, so I'm sure you went to your local salon this past weekend.
It's always good when you can get a compliment from Dylan Baker, who, for those of you who don't know, is often regarded as the guy in the press box with the best hair, so I'll take that any day of the week.
You're too kind.
Without further ado, Dylan, we'll go ahead and we'll welcome Chris McQueen on this week's episode of Majors Quarantine Corner. We are joined now by former London Major Chris McQueen. Chris, how's it going today?
Fellas, I'm well. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad. Getting things started, Chris. You grew up in London. I'm sure you went to Labatt Park quite a bit playing and as a fan. Did you ever dream of playing for the Majors or look up to any of their players?
Yeah, you know what? For me, the Majors, I didn't really know what caliber of ball they were, because you know what? I did grow up at Labatt Park, yeah, but I was watching teams like the Monarchs and all the independent teams that they tried to bring in year after year. But you know what? The Majors were always put in the shadow. But you know what? The fans that stayed true to them, that's what kind of made the program as prestigious as it is. So for me, I can't say that I really dreamt of playing for them, but once I realized the caliber of baseball and the quality staff that they have there, it definitely was something that I wanted to get into for sure.
You mentioned there a little bit about the fans for the Majors, and there is a lot of fans for London that, they come back year after year. How important are those fans when you show up to the ballpark every day?
It's definitely key, because you know what? In the league, you show up at stadiums where there's minimal to any fans at all, and having those fans, you know what, on a Friday night, even after finishing work and heading out, you know what, it's a working man's league, and heading out knowing that you have fans week after week is a good feeling, and you know what, you want to just play for them at that point.
Yeah, for sure. The Majors with one of the best fan bases in the league. Now, there's an official affiliation beginning this year. You spent some time, though, with the St. Thomas Tomcats. What was that experience like there?
You know what? The Tomcats was a different experience for me, because we went through a few coaching changes to the 2 years that I did play for them. So you know what? It kind of got to a point where we were left with the game in our hands, and as guys that have played together for so many years, we kind of just we played baseball, and we did the best that we could at it, and we were very successful at it through our years in junior. And you know what, doing it with the guys that you've done it with for years makes it that much better.
Kind of staying on that topic a little bit, Chris, there's numerous other guys that have played on that Tomcats lineup and also played for the London Majors. Now with the official affiliation between the two clubs, do you think that's going to be a huge thing for the London Majors going forward?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in local talent Don't get me wrong, playing with those guys that come from overseas and from different countries, that's an incredible experience, and that won't go away, I think, in this league. But having your local talent is key, and that's what will drive you deep even into the playoffs and pennant races as well. Um, you kind of look to those guys as much as most of those guys are working every day, all day. Um, they want to be at the park just as much, and yeah, like it's kind of key having those guys around because that's what kind of gives you your depth, which is huge.
Yeah, for sure. Local talent is very important for an IBL team, and the Tomcats have a great program over there. Shifting over to your time in college now, you spent some time at St. Clair College and Fanshawe. What can you take away from your time there?
Those were my biggest years. As much as people might say that those leagues aren't as competitive as say the IBL or even colleges in the States for that matter. Those are the years that you build. Like I was there from 18 through 21, and those are the biggest years for me, learning how to play the game the right way, and that's when you kind of the trust is left in your hands, really, and you kind of have to perform or you're not playing, sort of thing. So it's a big building era for most guys. um, but that is definitely where I learned the most of my ability anyhow, and how to play the game right.
After you finished up at Fanshawe and you kind of moved into a little bit of a coaching role there as well, how important is that to you? And is that something you've kind of seen yourself doing before or not really?
Definitely. Actually, you know what? I went to Dallas. I went to a Dallas junior college for a year, and I played there for a year. But I also coached as well with a travel prospect team down in Texas. And you know what? That's where I kind of experienced my passion for coaching. I just had an easy way to connect with guys, and I'm really good at teaching the game through my experiences, and make moving my way into Fanshawe. There, it was like being at home, coaching your home team. It was huge. Like being able to help those guys and explain why some things are more effective than others. I think that's a good way to learn rather than just being excuse me, yelled at by maybe some coaches. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Transitioning into your time with the Majors now, you spent some time with the organization from 2015 to 2018. How did you get your start with the team?
You know what? I came in pretty much as an underdog. I kind of just I reached out on an email and said, "Hey, I'm interested." And there was workouts starting in January, and I showed up to those workouts, and I took my ground balls, I took my hacks in the cage, like I ran and worked out and did all of that. I didn't really have any expectations to start or play at that point. I figured I might get like a pinch run or a pinch hit here or there. Um, but you know what? It like due to injuries and other factors, like I got slid into the lineup, which was huge for me because as soon as I'm a guy that as soon as opportunity rises, I kind of rise to the occasion, and I kind of wanted to move forward. I didn't want to ever lose that spot. Um, and it just so happened that in my first year, I was starting in center field every game of the playoffs, which I didn't ever anticipate at all because all in my minor career, I played second base. I played second base. I played second base. Um, but I mean, the outfield, like that's just like second nature. It's just you got to catch the ball and get it in. So I don't know, like that's pretty much how I got into my role there. And then after that, I just kind of fed off of that, and that's where I took it.
Growing up here in London, Chris, we talked about it a little bit earlier on, but it's got to be nice to play in front of family and friends day in and day out. We have a picture here with you and your younger brother at Labatt Park. Looks like it's on Canada Day. Talk to me just a little bit about that relationship with your family and being able to have them at all the games.
Yeah, you know what? My family, that was the biggest key and biggest factor in getting to where I got to go in my baseball career, really, because they were there at every tournament and every practice. And being able to have them come and enjoy a game on a Friday night is just a classic thing in itself. But being able to watch their son, I think, is even more special. And there was a lot of milestones that I was able to achieve when they were there. So that was special to me for sure. And then, yeah, my brother, like those were the biggest years, I think, growing for him. Being able to watch me play in front of so many people and do pretty cool things, I think, in my eyes, I think that's a special moment for sure. And I was actually just like flicking back through my pictures on Facebook and seeing how much he's grown even in the years that I did play for the majors. And I don't know, I'm really appreciative to have that time there and to be able to show him how to play the game the right way, even if he doesn't end up playing baseball in the future, maybe just as a personal standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. It's always important to have your family with you, and you've been able to show your younger brother some awesome things. Now, Chris, of course, you're not playing with the majors anymore, but what have you been doing in isolation to keep yourself in shape?
To keep myself in shape, just get outdoors as much as possible. I'm an avid hunter and an avid outdoorsman. I love being outside. I definitely don't like staying inside. So really any job that I can find outside, like I'll get after. Unfortunately, I've been laid off for the last few months, but hopefully getting back to work very soon due to the pandemic. But yeah, I guess I just enjoy the outdoors as much as possible. I fish a little bit here and there throughout the summer, but it's not like I'm working out. I'm not getting after anything like that, unfortunately. Yeah.
Obviously, not right now, as you mentioned, working out. But when you were playing with the majors, you're primarily a speed guy. You know, middle infield. You mentioned you played some center field as well. How do you kind of tailor that training towards being a speed guy?
You know what? I think agility is one of the biggest things in this sport, especially if you do want to be a speed guy, because left to right is as big as forward to back. So for me, ladders were huge. I would use a speed parachute, anything like that. Like I would just try and get faster and try and get faster and try and get faster. But you know what? Like that's what it comes down to. You have to just have the discipline and you have to have the will to want to be the fastest in the league in order to maintain that, really.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people say that speed is kind of a dying element of the game. I think it's a very important one for most teams. What are your thoughts on that? How important is speed to a good baseball team?
Well, you know what? I think everyone has their own roles, right? Like you're gonna have your speed guys, which is gonna be maybe one or two guys out of the lineup, and then you're gonna have your power guys. You're gonna have your guys that drive in runs. But to me, speed goes hand in hand with contact and the crack of the bat, and just really getting on base because some guys have to set the table and some guys have to clear it. So it's just a matter of it's just a matter of having that team aspect and being able to add all those factors up to be successful. So you know what? I think accepting your role is a big part of those college years that I was talking about, and transferring that into your future pro career or semi pro career, whatever it may be.
Moving on a little bit now to some of the fan questions that came in as they do every week, Chris. This one we had last week, but we got it again this week for you. Do you have a walk-up song that was kind of a go-to walk-up song for you, or even a genre that you like to go to for your walk-up song?
I think the biggest one that actually had most sentimental value would have been um, "Underdog" by Chris Young. It kind of just like announced like Friday Night Lights, and then just like last play of the game sort of thing. I don't know. It just kind of fired me up.
It's also that you're able to kind of bring elements from that song into your game. Next fan question here. You wore number 6 in your time with the majors. What's the meaning behind that number for you?
Not much of one, really. When I grew up and I first made the Badgers, that was just the number I got because I was the smallest guy. So it kind of took on like, hey, you're the smallest dude. This is what you're wearing. You don't have a choice with your number anymore, and you go from there. So I was like, whatever, I'll just roll with it, and I'd rule with it for my entire career, really.
Awesome. This one is going to be a little bit of a fun one here. We have a video sent in to us from Keith Candell, a former major as well. So we'll play that now because he has a question for you.
Chris, you had a lot of bunt singles in your career with the majors, but I had more stolen bases. I think the fans really want to know, between you and I, who would win in a race in our heyday?
as Keith wants me to to tell him that he's gonna win in a straight up race, like I'll give him the fact that he's a better base runner. I was not a good base runner off first base. I just couldn't pick up the pitchers as well as he could. But in just a straight race or like first to third, I can't tell him that he's faster because I know that I'd have him just from a competitive standpoint. But he definitely has the knowledge for sure. He's a better base runner in that aspect.
We'd love to see that race take place, and I know I'm kind of volunteering you, Noah, but I'd love to call that with you if we ever get the chance to do so. My last fan question here: out of all the nicknames given to you by players and fans, which one is your favorite and why?
Oh, well, my most common is Queener. Like I get that a lot. I want to say McFly was probably my most favorite, and I got that from a coach. His name's Matt Gooding. He coached Tomcats and he coached Western as well with Lumley, and he was just the most up-spirited guy. And he'd always tell you how much he loved watching you play. It didn't matter what you did or what position you played. He'd tell you how much he loved watching you play and how you played the game. He's like, you played the game the right way, man. Like, I love that about you, like this and that and the other. Yeah, definitely McFly for sure because, that sets home for sure.
Awesome. Well, we thank you for joining us today, Chris. We won't take too much more of your time, and hopefully you can go out and enjoy some of that weather you like to enjoy.
Cheers, fellas. Thanks, eh?
Well, Dylan, another great talk there with former London Major Chris McQueen, and we wrap up another episode here, and we got to hear some good stories there. Chris, of course, a local guy and a guy that, although we talked about it, he did not dream of playing for the Majors, but loved every moment of it.
Yeah, he definitely did. He's a guy who certainly enjoyed his time spent with the organization at Labatt Park every Friday night, being able to have his family down there to watch him whenever he was playing at home. He really relished the opportunity to play for the Majors, really enjoyed it. And like you mentioned, he didn't grow up idolizing any Majors players or really dreaming of playing for the organization because they were kind of in the shadows before. But when he got here, he enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Coming up next week on the show, we are joined by Adwin Springer, a former London Major who played a little bit earlier on in the decade, actually, an outfielder for the Majors, and we'll be excited to join him and kind of talk to him a little bit about what it was like playing for the Majors.
Yeah, we're excited to get a chance to chat with Adwin. He played from 2011 to 2013. He was an outfielder, primarily right field. So we're excited to talk to him about his time spent with the Majors earlier on in the decade. They had some great success back then, and he did as well, a great player.
Absolutely. So we'll go ahead and we'll wrap things up here on this episode of Majors Quarantine Corner, and we look forward to seeing you next week.